You've definitely seen the iceberg, right? That classic image showing the tiny tip of the internet we all use, with this vast, mysterious, hidden world lurking underneath. It's a powerful picture, but what if I told you that whole image is, well, kind of wrong? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the real story behind the deep web and the dark web.
And of course, you've probably seen these numbers everywhere. You know the ones. 4% is the regular internet, 90% is the deep web, and a spooky 6% is the dark web. It's a neat, tidy story, and it pretty much shapes how we all think about the internet.
But hang on a second, we have to ask the obvious question here. Who measured this? How could anyone possibly put an exact percentage on something that's supposed to be immeasurably huge and hidden? Yeah, the simple answer is they can't. Nobody can. Those percentages aren't real data. They're just a metaphor to help us visualize something complex. The internet is constantly changing, it's completely decentralized, and a huge part of it is literally designed not to be found. So let's just throw those misleading numbers out for a minute and talk about what these things actually are.
So let's start with the biggest piece of that puzzle, the one everyone gets wrong, the so-called deep web. Seriously, forget all the scary, sensationalist stuff, because the reality is actually pretty boring and way, way more important. Think of it as the internet's engine room. The definition is actually incredibly simple. The deep web is just any part of the internet that a search engine like Google can't crawl and index. And here's the most important part. This content is protected, usually by a login, not intentionally hidden for some secret evil purpose. In fact, you use the deep web literally every single day. Think about it. Your Gmail inbox. Can you Google someone's emails? No. Your online bank account, your Netflix profile. None of that stuff shows up in a search result, right? You need a password. And for all the IT folks out there, this is your world. Your AWS console, your internal company wikis, your databases. It's the plumbing that makes our digital lives work.
So really, here's the best way to think about it. The deep web isn't some strange hidden place you stumble into. It's your office. For anyone who manages anything online, it's the secure space you work in and protect every single day.
All right, so now let's get to the part that gets all the media attention, the dark web. And to really understand this, you've got to stop thinking of it as a place. It's not some digital back alley. It's a technology. It's a tool, like a hammer or a screwdriver.
Okay, and this is where the distinction becomes absolutely critical. The dark web is a tiny, tiny slice of the deep web. But unlike your email, which is just protected behind a login, the dark web is intentionally hidden. It is built from the ground up for one thing and one thing only: anonymity. And to get there, you need special tools.
So how does that even work? Well, imagine your internet traffic is like a package you're mailing. A network like Tor takes that package, wraps it in multiple layers of encryption, and then bounces it between a bunch of random volunteer-run computers all over the world. By the time it gets to its final destination, so many layers have been added and removed that no one can tell where it originally came from. It's pure digital anonymity by design.
And because the technology itself is neutral, it gets used for wildly different things. On one hand, it's an absolute lifeline for journalists, whistleblowers, and activists living under oppressive governments. But on the other hand, that exact same anonymity creates a perfect environment for criminals to sell stolen data, trade malware, and organize their attacks. The tool is the same, it's the intent behind it that's different.
So let's just boil it all down to make it super clear. The deep web, its purpose is control. It's like a locked office building, and you get in with a normal web browser and your key, your password. The dark web, its purpose is anonymity. You need special software just to find the door. Both are invisible to Google, sure, but for completely different reasons.
Okay, so we've got our concepts down, the office space of the deep web and the anonymity tool of the dark web. But how do these two worlds actually connect? Let's follow the data. Let's trace the typical journey of your stolen credentials, from a secure company's server all the way to a criminal marketplace.
It almost always starts with something depressingly simple, a really convincing phishing email. An employee clicks a link, and boom, a piece of malware silently scrapes all the saved passwords and active login cookies right out of their web browser. That data gets bundled up, encrypted, and smuggled out of the network, and its final destination? A listing on a dark web marketplace where that access is sold to the highest bidder. And this right here, is the most important truth of this whole thing. The crime didn't happen on the dark web. The crime, the actual theft, happened back on the company's secure network. It happened in the deep web. The dark web is just the anonymous flea market where the stolen goods get sold.
So, if the dark web is really just a marketplace for our security mistakes, then how do we stop ending up there? Well, it means we have to fundamentally shift how we think about security. We have to go from being a reactive firefighter to being a proactive architect. See, the modern security architect plays a totally different game. They use a powerful toolkit, they practice zero trust, which basically means they assume attackers are already inside the network and verify absolutely everything. They enforce strong multi-factor authentication, not just texts, but real hardware. They keep untouchable offline backups as a last resort against ransomware. And their tools don't just look for old viruses, they hunt for any weird behavior that could signal an attack.
It's really the ultimate mindset shift. A firefighter's job starts when the alarm goes off. They rush in, clean up the mess, and ask, what happened? The architect's job is to design the building to be so fire-resistant that the alarm never has to go off in the first place. They're always asking what could happen. One is all about damage control, the other is about damage containment by design.
And that really brings the question right back to every single one of us, whether we're managing a huge company or just our own personal accounts. Are we just waiting around for the fire alarm to go off, or are we actually building our digital lives to be resilient from the very start?
Because this is the fundamental truth of our digital world now. It's no longer a question of if you'll face an attack, but when it's going to happen. And so, understanding the deep and dark web isn't about being scared. It's about being prepared. It's about becoming the architect of your own security, ready for the day that will inevitably come.